Shalom, all praises go to the Most High Yahweh Basha Mihashai Basha Madawak Wadash Dabalana, son to the elder apostles at Great Millstone for the teachings of the scriptures, among other things. Shalom to the sincere Akim across the world. And this is the book of Exodus, chapter 2, verse 19. And they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us, and watered the flock. And he said unto his daughters, and where is he? Why is it that ye have left the man? Call him, that he may eat bread. And Moses was content to dwell with the man. And he gave Moses Zipporah his daughter. And she bare him a son, and he called his name Gershom. For he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land. So, the point is that he was called an Egyptian. I'll get to that. Now, this is the book of, because the Apostle Paul also was called an Egyptian, because it says right here, Acts 21 and 38, art not thou that Egyptian, which before these days made us an uproar, and led us out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers? But Paul said, I am a man which am a Jew from Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city. And I beseech thee, suffer me to speak unto the people. So, Paul also was seen as an Egyptian. So if you check out the word, what it says right there, Exodus chapter 2, verse 19, and they said, an Egyptian delivered us. So this is talking about Moses. He was called an Egyptian. And if you look up the first word, it says here, a man, Ayash, says man, and it says here Matazarayam, which is Egyptian, which is the second word. This one, 4714, which goes into, I can leave this one, which goes into 4713, which says Egyptian. But the root word of it, etymology, is a Hebrew 4714, which is Egypt, Matazarayam, and the other one, Matazaraya. Okay. So, and who is Matazarayam? Who is that? Well, if you go to the book of here, you type in the word Mizraim. Then you look up the word then you look up Genesis chapter 10 verse 6, and the sons of Ham, Cush, Mizraim, which is Hebrew 4714, and Put, and Canaan. So we can now establish that Mizraim, Hebrew 4714, if I click on it, here you can see it, it's talking about Egypt. The same word that I got here when it's Hebrew 4713, and then I clicked on the, which is also Egypt, an Egyptian, the Egyptian, and then I click on this word now, 4714 here, and then you can see it again, Egypt, Egyptian, inhabitants or native of Egypt. Okay, so it's the same word, right? So what is that? It's Mizraim. So Mizraim is one of the sons of Egypt. Of Ham. And here in the video before this, I read this. So I'm going to read it again. The names Syria, Assyria, Mesopotamia, Babylon, etc. stem from the Greeks, who were not familiar with the true geography of these lands when the names first started to be used. Later, partially because of continued ignorance and partially because of convenience, despite having accurate knowledge, they persisted in using them, since it would have required something of an effort to give up the old familiar names and divisions of the countries, because they wanted to divide. And they wanted to keep the lie going on. Anyway, so it says here, and switch to the new ones even if they were more accurate. The old, true, and single name of these lands is Aram. But yeah, that's going into this actually. But my point is, They did it since with other nations, and they're doing it here once more again. The word Egypt is a Greek word. Yeah, it has nothing to do with the Bible. It says there, so actually Mizraim. So what is the point of this video? The Moses, the Israelites, well, Moses in this case, in this chapter, he was actually called a son of Canaan. He was actually called, a son of Ham. He was called a Mizraimite. When they looked at him, they was like, oh, he's a Hamite. Well, what does that indicate? It indicates that the Hamites, they look like, the Israelites look like Hamites, which are dark-skinned people. Everybody on the world, especially when they want to be racist and stuff like that, yeah, you're a Hamite and stuff like that, right? But it says that Moses was seen as a Hamite. And so was Paul. Same word here, Acts 21, G124. G124 once more. And what does it say? An Egyptian. And where does it go back to? It goes back to Mizraim, which is Hebrew 4714. And that is the same word that is mentioned here. Well, here it says Hebrew 4713. But then that refers to Hebrew 4714. So Moses was seen as what you would call nowadays an African. And you might say, like, hey, what about the people that are in Egypt right now? Wasn't he looking like that? Those people went in there. Those are a bunch of Arabs. Just like how Australia got taken over in 1788. America got taken over in 1492. South Africa got taken over in 1652. So if you went into South Africa in 1651, you would see only Hamites there. Same thing with Australia. 1787, you would see only the so-called Aboriginals over there. Same thing with America. If you go in 1491, you would only see the natives, and you would only see the so-called what they call here in the Netherlands, what they call Caribbean Moors. They used to call them that. They don't call them that no more. The Germans used to call them Caribbean Moors, and the Italians used to call them Blackamoor, or also Caribbean Moor. Blackamoor, Italiano, Italy. Blackamoor, Italy. Then you will find this. They was dressing like that, and you don't dress like this in Europe because it's too cold. Maybe in the summer, I don't know. But these are the things that they saw concerning these type of clothing, with feathers and leaves and all that type of stuff. But they also saw people with these type of things, pangis. I don't know how you call that in English, but yeah, it's like a some kind of blanket thing. I don't know how you call it in English, but it's another word. And you had Moors looking like this. These were the ones from Europe. These were the ones from South America. And yeah, when you go to Italy, you see these type of statues, and then you have these type of statues when you go to Germany. These are the natives that they saw there. These are the Moors from Europe. Again, these one are the ones from South America. This one again is from South America. This one again. Again in Germany. And this one again also in Germany. This is again from South America. These are the ones that the Dutch. This is a Dutch place. I teach in this street actually. The Dutch also had businesses with the people that were the smoking Moors. So they show you, they make it their own tongue to fall upon themselves. Den Haag, they used to do business with the Caribbean Moors, with the Caribbean Moors of America. This one is the Indiano looking one with straight hair. But this one is the Afro looking one, selling stuff to tobacco to Amsterdam. Cigar magazines. It would be some kind of not factory, but something like that. Yeah. Anyway, so storage, yeah, cigar storage. Yeah, that's what it says. I was thinking of the word cigar storage. But yeah, so what did they see? They saw those people that nowadays are depicted like this. If you type in Moses, then you get this little guy over here. That doesn't look like a son of Ham. Yeah. And then this one, he also doesn't look like the son of Ham. And you might say, why is color important? Color isn't important. It doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter, then you should have no problem with it being a dark-skinned man. How about that? So with that, I'm going to say Shalom. They're Israelites, by the way. They was called Hamites when they was seen on sight. Oh yeah, you might argue it was their clothing, No, it wasn't. Because Paul, he was actually dressed up like a Roman, because he was a Roman citizen. And, well, you might say about Moses, because he lived in Mizraim, in the temple and stuff like that. So his clothing might have been somewhat and stuff like that. But still, they said a man, because it clearly said a man from Mizraim. Yeah, so it's talking about him. Same thing with Paul. They thought he was a Hamite, a son of Ham, Mizraim. Again, here it says Egypt, right? The word Egypt. The Hebrew word therefore is Hebrew 4714. And here, the word Mizraim is the same thing, Hebrew 4714. So, Mizraim and Egypt is one word, which is Matazarayam, or in the English, Egypt, and in the other English, like the name, I should say, it's Mizraim. So yeah, with that, I'm going to say Shalom.